Am I the a-hole stories? Updated, am I the a-hole for kicking my girlfriend out of my place on New Year's Eve for scaring my little brother? We can all agree 2020 was a horrible year. Particularly for my, 29 male, family. We lost our dad beginning of the year after he had a heart attack, and my little brother, 12, had no one to take care of him. Our mom died when he was 3, so our dad was all we had left. I fought for custody and was appointed his legal guardian. Honestly, it hasn't been easy. We're still adjusting to these life changes and my brother is taking it the hardest. For months he was just not himself. Bad attitude, lashing out. I got him in therapy because I knew he was just hurting, plus stress of pandemic. His behavior has improved so much since then, even if sometimes there's days where he's withdrawn. Days before Christmas, he was feeling sad since it was our first holiday without Dad. That day, he asked to be left alone. We had a talk to discuss his feelings and I gave him his space after that. My girlfriend was over that day and I went out to buy groceries. When I got back, my brother was out of his room and helping out. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Yesterday my brother and I were out having some guy time before going back home to get ready for New Year's Eve. My brother opened up about how grateful he is for everything, and he hopes that I don't change my mind about taking care of him. I asked why he'd think that, and he told me what happened. That day when I was out, my girlfriend went to his room to tell him he needs to change his attitude and stop moping, her exact words, because he should be grateful I'm taking care of him at all. And that we can still hand him over to the state if we wanted to. I was furious about this, and had to reassure him that was never going to happen, because he really was worried about it. We went home, I confronted my girlfriend and she didn't deny it. She told me it's true and there was nothing wrong with telling him to stop acting like that when he should be grateful I gave up my life to take care of him. And the thing about giving him up isn't that big of a deal to her, because it's not like I'll actually do it. I said she still scared him with that threat and told her to leave my apartment, because honestly, I was far too mad, and because I didn't want her to be near him right now. She started crying, there was more fighting, but she left in the end. It was just me and my brother for New Year's. Since last night, I've been bombarded with calls from all our friends for kicking her out, knowing she has no family and nobody else to spend the holiday with. Everyone has sided with her, and even my best friend says I may have overreacted by making her leave, when she probably thought she was helping. They've heard my side of the story, but still think I was a jerk for making her cry and spending the new year alone. I'm having trouble seeing how I could be, so here I am looking for internet strangers to weigh in on this. Now for the top comments before the update. In what world are you the jerk in this scenario? Time to get new friends to go along with the new girlfriend, cause none of the current ones sound up to snuff. Not the a-hole at all, you were protecting your brother, a vulnerable child whose only stability is you now. His friends are terrible. Who sides with the person who tells a child who lost both parents something so hurtful? A-holes. Your girlfriend is cruel. Not the a-hole. Your brother comes first. That day when I was out, my girlfriend went to his room to tell him he needs to change his attitude and stop moping, her exact words, because he should be grateful I'm taking care of him at all. And that we can still hand him over to the state if we wanted to. That is beyond messed up of her to say. If she really didn't see a problem with doing it, she wouldn't have waited until he was gone to do it. This is exactly what I was thinking. Why would she say it when he's not around, if she really thought it was no big deal? She knew what said was awful and was probably hoping the little brother would be too scared to say anything about it. Not the a-hole. How is everyone siding with her? She must have told some twisted version of the story to your friends. Yup, exactly. If I were in his shoes, I would reply to each of these people describing exactly what she did, and if any of them still sided with her, then that would tell me a lot about them. Update. Okay, wow, this has gotten a ton of feedback. Thanks everyone for your kind and encouraging words. I might not have replied to a lot of the comments that made me smile, but just know that I read and appreciate them. I know I only posted this a few hours ago, but I've had a day to clear my head and really think about this. I talked to my brother because I wanted to know if she said anything else to him. Thankfully she hasn't, and we had another serious chat to remind him everything she told him is completely false. I would never in a million years give him up, and that shouldn't have been put in his head. Another thing I told him was that, I'm grateful he's here with me. Without him, I wouldn't have made it through the year, and I thanked him for giving me that strength to keep going. Someone who DM'd me suggested reassuring him that he's not somehow ruining my life, in case he feels any guilt for what she told him. Thank you for that suggestion. Now, I know you are all waiting on this news. Yes, I did break up with her. Thinking about what a lot of you said, talking to my brother about how this made him feel, and my own thoughts about how badly she acted, I decided that's not someone I want around me or him. I can't risk her doing something like this again and ruining any progress he makes in therapy. I know many of you think I should have done it on the spot. But I wanted to make this decision with a clear head and not when my emotions were extremely high. She came by my place earlier and we talked outside. Her reaction was as bad as you'd expect, and she still believed she did nothing wrong, even after I explained it all to her. There was just no making her understand, and I told her it was over. I gave her a couple of her things that were lying around my apartment and she left. My phone started going off like an hour later, so I had to put it on Do Not Disturb. That's all the drama I could handle for one night. I'll deal with my friends some other time. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Mentally and emotionally drained right now. I think this weekend, we'll do something to get our minds off this. I definitely need it after everything, and I know my brother does too. It's been a hard year already without all this extra drama. Anyways, sorry for the really long update you guys, but I didn't want to leave anyone hanging. I'm sure more comments will keep coming. I probably won't be sleeping much tonight, so I'll keep my mind busy by reading and replying to more of you. Thanks again for the support. What a horrible way to start the new year, but here's to hoping for better things. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for continuing to refuse to attend family holidays, because I am no contact with my brother over a betrayal that happened 5 years ago? I, 33 male, am having an issue where my family is pressuring me to resume contact with my brother, 35 male, after I went no contact years ago. 5 years ago, my brother and I were working at the same company. I had been there for 3 years and he had been there for 2. He was hired because I referred him when they were looking for new employees. When a management position came open, he and I both applied for it and told each other it was no hard feelings if the other one got it. He was hired for the position and I was not. I was genuinely happy for him, and did not have any negative feelings about him getting hired. I was proud of him and thought he deserved it. A few months after he was hired for the position, my former boss, who I have a great relationship with, left the company and asked me out for lunch. He told me in confidence that the reason my brother was hired over me, was that my brother took an email I sent him, venting about a work issue, and forwarded it to the hiring manager to explain why I was not a good fit for the position. I confronted him about this and he admitted it, and said he thinks it wasn't an underhanded thing to do, because it simply showed how I wasn't meant for management, because that's not how managers act. I was devastated. I cut him out of my life completely. I told him that he was no longer my brother and to forget that I even exist. He tried to justify his betrayal and told me that it wasn't as serious as I was making it out to be, but I refused to be swayed, despite massive pressure from my family to make peace with him. I found another job and I seldom interact with my family, due to how I feel I was shown very little sympathy for what he did to me. The attitude I got from my family was essentially that it wasn't a nice thing to do, but he has children to take care of, so it's understandable that he'd do anything to make more money to provide a better life with him. My mother said this to me almost verbatim. He has attempted to contact me several times over the years, and we once ran into each other at a store, but I ignored him and kept walking. He was not invited to my wedding, and he and his wife have not met my wife nor my firstborn, 10 months. My parents have been allowed to come and visit, but my mother told me that the holidays aren't right without my family there, and they have begged me to put the past behind us, and let this go so we can be a family again. My wife sides with me and thinks that my brother is an a-hole. We spend Christmas with her family instead of visiting mine. Am I the a-hole for continuing to hold this grudge? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, you forgive him when you are ready. And if he really needed the money for his family, why not just say, hey brother, I know we are both gunning for this promotion, but I need this for my kids. Would you mind pulling out of the running? Him sandbagging you like that, not only screwed you out of that job, but any other potential openings that would have happened while you were there, you know? You forgive him when you are ready. Forgiveness is generally reserved for those who ask for it. OP's brother maintains that he did nothing wrong and has never apologized. The brother is untrustworthy and unrepentant. The parents are toxic for siding with him. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your brother is the worst. And frankly, I'm shocked they would offer him a management position after he did what he did. I would never want someone that backstabby working for me or managing a team. That being said, if you did want to move past this, it's not unreasonable. I'd never trust him with any information again. But being civil and distant is possible. Seriously, why on earth would you want someone so two-faced and cutthroat, to have a position of power over others? Not the a-hole. There were plenty of other options for your brother to take. And to undermine your chances was BS. He could have said to you he needed more money for the family or anything really. Asking you to step aside so he can get it. I don't know, man, I wouldn't forgive him either. The family pressure needs to stop. Set up boundaries and consequences. If your mother or anyone pressures and boundary stomps, then there's consequences. The pressure coming from my parents really started to ramp up once I got married and had a kid. I guess now that I've got my own family, my parents feel like they're also missing out instead of just me. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to allow the hospital to discharge my wife to me? My wife now has stage 4 colon cancer. For the past year and a half, I have had to work and then come home and do the majority of the household chores, and I was also treated as the nurse. We have 2 sons, 18 and 16 male, and a daughter, 15 female, that help out, but it became expected of me to be their go-to parent on everything. A year ago, my wife pretty much stopped being able to do anything for herself. She's exceptionally rude to me, and pretty much screams and cries hysterically all the time, and sometimes mutters on about people who haven't been in our lives for some time. She also blames me for not being kind to her, when I am putting my entire life on hold when I'm at home, and I felt like I didn't even have an identity anymore. Over the summer, I have talked to doctors and they told me there was a lot of red tape regarding getting my wife into a nursing home. I talked with my dad, 74 male, and he told me that from his understanding hospitals, if you didn't pick up a patient after discharge 3 days later, the hospital social worker would have to place them into a specialized nursing facility. Last week, my wife had to be rushed to the emergency room. For the week, I didn't have to be her nurse. I realized how much of a strain taking care of a barely lucid, and angry when she was lucid woman had become to me. I realized that I was basically being mom and dad around the house, and I was so tired of doing this every single day, and then waking up at 6 to go to work. When I found out my wife was set to be discharged, I ended up making up my mind. When the hospital called to say that they were going to discharge my wife and I needed to be there to receive her, I told them that I did not want to take care of her anymore. The hospital continuously called me back, and the person on the other line would beseech me to bring my wife home. However, I stood my ground and said that my wife needed to go to a professional nursing facility, and said that the hospital's social workers needed to figure that out. Am I the a-hole for finally realizing I had reached my limits? My daughter in particular is very upset that her mom is not coming home. My sons screamed at me that they would take care of their mother 24/7 if they had to. However, I knew that the hospital social worker would do his/her job competently and help my wife into a facility. Now for the top judgment. You're the a-hole. OP, I feel for you. Taking care of someone who is very sick as well as 3 kids and a full-time job. I can sympathize that this is very draining and difficult. However, the way you are going about this is not right and not fair to your wife, or your kids. First off, you need to admit that you need help and ask for it. This just seems like you spent the last year taking on more and more until you burned yourself out. Caregivers burnout is a real thing. And as you've experienced, can hit hard. How about asking one of your parents to come help? A sibling? Or perhaps hire a nurse to come and help you out during the day? Find some way to allow yourself to relax. Making a decision to force your wife into a nursing home isn't fair to her, and it isn't fair to your kids. This needed to be a conversation that you had with your wife and your kids. Not something that you all of a sudden decided to force happen. I understand you are burned out, but throwing your hands up and giving up isn't the right call here. Even if you agree on finding a nursing home, perhaps choose one with your wife instead of forcing her into whatever the system will provide. Spoiler alert, it's probably not going to be very good. Your kids are probably going to hate you for this, so if you are okay with your entire immediate family being very upset with you for a long time, well, kudos I guess. My heart breaks for his wife. Dying, unable to care for herself, torn away from her children. Abandoned by the one person who swore to be there. Guess he didn't actually read in sickness and in health. Caregiver burnout is real. I understand it logically. But emotionally imagining being her. Laying there, knowing your husband is refusing to get you. I'm literally crying here. I'm going to cling to my husband and hope to God he never turns into that. I read the statistics once about people who leave their partners when they are severely ill or dying. They are staggeringly high for men. But women, almost non-existent. You are the epitome of selfish. You have put your own happiness above that of your dying wife and your 3 children. This is the time for a little self-sacrifice. Sure, you're not legally required, and sure, I know it's tough. But yeah, you're the a-hole. Your wife will suffer for the last few months of her life because of you. Your children will likely never forgive you. If I was your eldest son, I'd be driving to the hospital, legally collecting my mother into my care and returning her to her legal home. I hope he does. I hope he realizes he can. Because with an a-hole for a dad like you, God knows your family needs a new father figure. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.